We're always ready.
All right, that means we're ready to go. All right, it's quick.
Is there anyone?
I mean, it's not quick. It's a lot. Yeah, it's recorded. There's thousands of people that
Fans.
tens of thousands. All right, we left off today's daf Ayin Ches in Maseches Yuma. We left off at the bottom of Ayin Zayin Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom. So we're discussing about going in water, right? Can't go in, can bathe. So there's a whole shaila yesterday about can one go through water on Yom Kippurim because they'll be bathing, right? Is that a matter of bathing? So we seem to say it was okay, but then we said, by the way, bathing, going in water, anyways, one should not go in water with the current. It's dangerous after a certain level. So I'm going to be Yehuda ben Pazi, Malach HaMavos, even the Malach HaMavos, right, doesn't really have permission to cross over a swift water. Ksiv Hacha, it says, Bal Pelech, don't go, Bo. Anishayit, don't go into Anishayit. Ksiv Hasam says over there, Meshut. It says over there, Meshut. So the so Shayit and Meshut, we learned is sort of the same word, and therefore it says don't go there. Meaning even the Malach HaMavos that the second passage was referring to should not, doesn't cross through water. And Amrei Pinchas Hashem Rav Huna Siparim Ma'ayin Hayayitzim Esakash Karashim Betchila Doimel Karnei Chagavim. We also saw this earlier. So the little stream that left from the Kodesh Kadashim in the beginning, as it started going eastward, right, was as thin as that of the antennas of Chagavim, of grasshoppers. Kevin Shagila Pesach HaEchel. Once it got to the opening of the Heichal, went for the east, Nasik Chut Shel Shesi. And then it was like the string of from weaving, right, of the warp, right, not the woof, the warp. And Kevin Shagil the Ulam, once it got to the Ulam, was a little further, Nasik Chushel Erev, then it was that of the Arev of the woof, right? And Kevin Shig, which is a little thicker, Kevin Shagil Pesach Azara, once it got the Azara, Nasa could be a pach, cotton, then it basically got to the thickness, the width of a small flask. Behind it, the time, as we learn in the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Omer, Mayim, Fachin Asidim Liyos Yaitzi Mitachas Miftan Habayis. So he said that in the future, right, the Asid, right, the Asid Alpo. So the water that comes out from under the Mikdash, right, will be like that of a I guess it will emerge from there. It will come out from there. Then it will get, it will get wider and deeper. Megillah Pesach Beis David, until it got to the Pesach Beis David, till the entrance of Beis David, right, of Harabayas and Kevan Megillah Pesach Beis David Nasa Kenachal Shaytif. Then it will be like a wild, like a thick, like a fast stream. Because those who have to enter the Harabayas, they will, the person is a Zav or a Zava or Nida, Yoledes, and these people that require Tvila, they will be able to go ahead and go in this water that's going out because it'll be deep enough. Shemar plus it says, right? On that day, it'll be a source of water, Beis David, for those who were living in Yerushalayim, right? For achatas, for cleaning of their nida, of their tumah. And Amar Rav Yosef, we can remez the nida should tzricha leishav atzvar b'mayim. Here we see is remez that the nida really should go in deep water to make sure that they're completely submerged in the water. However, the less hilchos kabasit. However, the halachas I like it in terms of that there is more requirement by nida. Rather, we know it has to be 40 sa, and that's the full amount. Fine. So that was a reference to the water lasi lavo that comes out from below the mikdash. Skip the parentheses. Now, Shabbos. Now we've been discussing two different matters, right? One is discussing we were discussing going in the water. So now speaking of the water, so and on Shabbos the issue is right. I guess wearing one to person wears in water, right? So the issue might be a person carrying something, right? Might take it off, might carry it. So and then we discussed the difference between right. So Shabbos, Dika Mina, Mai. Shabbos, right? If a person has shoes, right? What is the lacha about crossing these streams? Amram Nechemia, Chasne de Ben Asiya. So says Rabbi Nechemia, right, who was the son-in-law of the Ben Asiya of the house of Nasi. Ana Chazise Rabbi Ami Rabasi Damatu Urkomo Damaya Ravu Dirach Malbush. I saw them that they went. They came upon water and they crossed it Derech Malbush. Right, they went through it dressed. Right, they went through it dressed. They were wearing shoes. So you see that there was no issue of wearing shoes through the water. They was leave it on. They were wearing it. They weren't carrying it. No issue. So Tinach Minal, this works well. Okay, with the shoe. Sandal Maiklamev. Or what about a sandal? Right, a sandal which is not as wrapped around the foot. It's not as fixed to the foot. Might come off, slip off easier. Maiklamev. Some Rav Ruchimi. Ana Chazitz Ravina Dover Derech Malbush. So I saw also he went Derech Malbush that he went, I guess, wearing sandals, and therefore we see it was okay. And Rav Ashi Amar Sandal Lechatchila Lo. However, he says no. Rav Ashi says with sandal Lechatchila one should not go ahead and cross water, and we'll soon see why. And Reish Galusa Iklo Lagranya Lebe Rav Nasan. So the Reish Galusa was about the I guess it was under Gronia Lebe Rav Nasan and Rafam Vakulu Rabbana also the Pirka. And Rafam and all the other Rabbana came to learn, and Ravina did not attend. So Lamacha by Rafam Lafuki Ravina Midaita the Reish Galusa. So the next day he wanted to go ahead, basically a piece, and say, look, the Reish Galusa came, and Ravina didn't come. He wanted to know why Ravina didn't come. So Omar Lay, so he said to him, my time lost Amar Lepirka. Why didn't you come to the shir by the Reish Galusa? So Omar Lay, Havi Kayivli Kari. My foot was hurting me, right? My foot was hurting me. I didn't want to go ahead and travel on Shabbos there. So so why don't you So he says, why don't you go ahead and put on shoes? Put on shoes, you would have been okay. So he says, Gabba the Kari Havi. So he says, no, because why the top of my foot was hurting me. The top of my foot was hurting me. I couldn't put on shoes, they would have been uncomfortable. So why don't you put on a sandal? It's not as uncomfortable on top of your foot. Samarlei, Urkama Damaya Havi Barucha. So he says, no, there was a body of water in front of me. Body of water. If I would have worn sandals, then it would have been an issue. So so you could have worn it, derech malbush. You could have worn sandals in the water. So obviously he held that wearing sandals in the water was mutter. You don't hold like Rav Ashi, who held that a sandal lechatchila, one should not go ahead and wear that in the water. Fine. And Tani Yehuda bar Garogagarus, right? Also, so he says, right, not referring to the fig, right? That was, I guess, his father's name. So al gabe tina b'yom kippur. So we're discussing, in terms of bathing. So one should not go ahead and sit or lie in wet mud on Yom Kippur because from over there the moisture he'll become wet. So we're only talking about mud that is wet enough that will make you wet, right? And right, and also talking about that it's right that's wet enough to the point that it can go ahead and moisten other things. And Rav Yehuda, mutter litztanin bepeiros. It's mutter to cool off in peiros. Now, the Isser is not cooling off, right? The Isser is becoming wet. So if one wants to go ahead and cool off, right, on sitting on fruits or whatever it is, then it's mutter. Rav Yehuda standing bekara, he would go ahead and cool himself off with kara type of cabbage or a squash or something, right? The type of fruit, right? And Rabbah, is it Rabbah here? Does it change it, right? So Rabbah. It's done in Bianuka, I guess with a child, the baby was cold, so he would cool himself off that way. And Ravam, it's done in the kasa. He would go ahead and basically with a silver cup, right, I guess full of water, we'll soon see, he would cool off of that. Amar Rav Papa, kasa mole chaser shari. If the cup full of water is full of water, if it's full, then it's usher because it might go ahead and spill on you. And therefore, there's a problem of bathing. However, if it's fuzzer, if it's not filled to the top, then it would be okay to cool down by applying that to the skin because it's just the silver. And the pichra aser. But however, if it was made of earthenware, right, pichra, right, it's right. Then if it was made, it was earthenware. it would be usher because that has a mishum. Why? Why is that mishum? The mishum shakit because it could be cracks in it and the water could leak out. And the Gimel, some say Ravashi, Amar kas with the kas of chaser nami usher. Even if it's not full all the way, even if it's silver, it's not good. Mishum the mis darit because it might spill, and since it might spill, therefore it'll be prohibited because you might then come to be bathing. And Zeiri Barchama Ush Pizchanin the Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, the Kulu Rabbanon the Kesari. So Zeiri Barchama, he was host to Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and other Rabbanon the Kesari. Havi is Amalei the Rabbi Yosef, the Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So he said to Rabbi Yosef, the son of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, he says Bar Aryeh, right, the son of the lion, the great one, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Ta Ein Melacham Mils. Tell us some great custom that your father had. So he said to him, he used to go ahead and basically take a sudar, right? Take a kerchief, some sort of towel, right? And he would make it wet on Erev Yom Kippur. Or you would go ahead and take it, put it in the water. And then he would go ahead and he would dry it off. He would squeeze it out. And therefore, he would squeeze out so it wasn't that wet. And the next day on Yom Kippur, he used to go ahead and apply the cold, wet, but not too wet towel to his face, to his hands, to his feet. And similarly, and that would be allowed, right? Obviously, he did it, so that was his custom. It would be allowed because it wasn't bathing. It was because he squeezed it out the next day or before the next day, because one is not allowed to go ahead and squeeze it out on Yom Kippurim. So it's just a damp cloth, right? And Erev Tisha B'Av, Sharaisa B'Mayim, and Erev Tisha B'Av, you go ahead and take it, put it in the water, and the next day, Ma'avirop Gabi Panav Einaf, you put it on his eyes. He didn't squeeze it out, but I guess it would still dry off. The next day, you put it on his eyes. Rabbi Bar Mari Omar the Erev Tisha B'Av Mavino Mitavakas Tashuras of Mayim and Erev Tisha B'Av. These go ahead, take a towel and leave it in the water, and they put it underneath his head, right? I guess to cool down. But once again, it must have not been too wet because one is forbidden to bathe on Tisha B'Av. The next day, the next day he would wipe his face, hands, and feet. Erev Yom Kippurim, and on Erev Yom Kippur Mavino Mitavakas. They would bring this towel, the shayra ice of a mayim, put in water of ice, so kamina kalim, negubin. Then you go ahead and dry it off. You squeeze it out. The next day you put it upon his eyes. And Amar lei Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Tachlifa says Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Yirmiyah Tachlifa seivcha Martalan. Right? You told us the opposite, that he squeezed it out on Tisha B'Av and not Yom Kippurim. However, but we asked you by schita. In other words, if you didn't wring it out before Yom Kippur, that was a problem, because then a person might go ahead and do schita, squeeze it out on Yom Kippur. But at Tisha B'Av, where there is no issur of squeezing out and squeeze out water, you can do malach on Tisha B'Av. Therefore, that was why they didn't necessarily just squeeze it out. But nevertheless, it couldn't be wet to the point where it would get other things wet. And Amar Rav Menashe bar Tachliv, Amar Rav Amram, Amar Rav Rechana, Shalu es Rabbi Elazar Zoket, the Yoshev b'Yeshiva, Tzarich lito reshus lahatir b'chayros or einat tzarich. So they asked him if a Zakim Yoshev, someone was an elder and he was sitting amongst the Sanhedrin, right? He's a big time Chacham. Does he have to go ahead and ask permission to be matir b'chayros? Now, after the Beis Mikdash, right, the b'chayros, the firstborn animal would have to be given to the Kohen, but it could be offered. Normally, the Kohen takes it, offers it as a korban, and keeps the meat, right? But during this Mashal of Mikdash, they couldn't offer it, so they have to watch it until it develops a blemish, until it develops a mum. Right, so obviously it was in the Kohanim's best interest for it to have a mum. So the question was, can a Zakin Yoshev, can he go ahead and be matir b'chayros? Oh, ain't it serious? So Gemara says, "Michael, brother, what's the question?" So he says, "Hakikun brother, this is the question." Ki hadam ravidi barafin davar zay nichlahem lebenesia kadelis gaderbo. So even though yes, usually this question, the shayla used to be amongst the Sanhedrin, used to be the appropriate person to go to. But however, the power of saying this is a mum, this is not, was given over to the Benesia, to the house of the Nasi, right? To give chashivas to the house of the Nasi. So if it was given over, really it was supposed to be the Sanhedrin, but it's given over to the Beit Nasi. Can someone who's a Zakin, is Yoshev Yeshiva in the Sanhedrin, can he go ahead? Tzarich lito reshus idilma came in the Zakin Yoshev Yeshiva ain't tzarich. does he still have to go ahead and ask Rishus to paskin on his own, or does he have to go to the Bein Nasiya to request to go ahead and be matir? So Amar Rabbi Tzadok bar Chaluka Araglav stood Rabbi Tzadok bar Chaluka on his feet, Amar, and he says, Ani Reisi, I saw as Rabbi Yosi ben Zimra Shazakin v'Yoshe b'Shiva Haya. Right, he was a Zakin Yoshe b'Shiva. He was a member. Right, he used to sit amongst the Sanhedrin. The Amad the Malam is the Kino Shalzeh Benatar Rishus Lahati b'Charis, and he went ahead and he asked from the Bein Nasi, right, Bein Nasiya, permission to be matir b'Charis. So obviously, so what do you see from here? That someone requested that even someone was a Zakin v'Yoshe, nevertheless he has to request permission to be matir b'Charis from the Bein Nasi. So Rabbi Abba. No, that wasn't the issue. The issue wasn't he was a member of Sanhedrin, he needed the Rishus on the Bein Nasiya. However, rather it was like this. Rabbi Yosi ben Zimra Kohen Havi. He was a Kohen. This is the question over there. Halach Rameir is Halach Rameir Damar HaChoshe B'Davar Lo Danu V'Lo Bido. If someone is Choshe B'Davar now, since he's no Gei B'Davar, he's a Kohen, right? So, like I said, the Kohanim
is function for what kind of Davar?
So he's a Kohen, and therefore the Kohanim, it was in their best interest to say this was a moon. So therefore,
before,
right, and then they can just keep it. They don't have to watch it and until it develops a moon. The moon is already here, so I can do whatever I want. I can shecht it and eat it. I can have hamburgers tonight, right? Steak. So do we say that since he's a Kohen, he's basically nogei b'davar, and therefore he can't paskin because might come back to him or whatever it is? I do like Gamliel to Amar. Neman Havi al Shel Chavero Ve'ein Neman al Shatz. He can go ahead and paskin regarding any other coins, right? B'charas, he just can't go ahead and paskin on his own. And therefore they said and therefore he was allowed to, despite the fact that he was a Kohen, he was allowed to go ahead and be matir b'charas for other Kohanim.
Not for himself.
Not for himself. Exactly, like Shimon Gamliel. And then furthermore, there was another question. Now this is why we brought it. Mahu latzeis besandel shel sham. What is halacha regarding on Yom Kippurim for one to go ahead and wear a sandal made of sham, right? Not of leather, as was common in those days, rather made from sham, right? From some type of plant, right? I mean, guma, shikarin, right? Rubber, right? Or some sort of plant, whatever that was made. So can you wear that Yom Kippurim? So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Nachmani al Raglav Yomar Ani Reisi as Rishub ben Levi Sheyatz b'Sandal Shasham. I saw Rishub ben Levi. Right, he himself was wearing a sandal that was not made of leather. So it wasn't just all shoes are prohibited; it's just shoes made of leather. But if it was something made of something else, i.e., rubber or whatever it is, sham, right, this type of plant, right, then it would. The touches over here is rush, right? The type of rush, then it would be mutter. Sheyatz b'Sandal Shasham b'Yom Kippurim v'Amin Allah. When he asks, okay, what about Tanis Sibor when it's usher and certain Tanis when it's usher to go ahead and wear leather shoes? There's no difference between Yom Kippur or that's the same halacha. And Amar Rabbi Chanani Reisi as Rabbi Elazar Demin Nenva Sheyatz v'Sandal Shasham. The Tanis Sibor, I saw Rabbi Elazar from Ninveh, right? They used to go out in sandal made of sham of this rush and Tanis Sibor. The Min Levi Yom Kippur. And I asked, what about Yom Kippur? So he said to him, no difference. And Rabbi Yehuda, nafik, b'dehitni, right? And Rabbi Yehuda used to go out b'dehitni, also a certain type of rush. And Abai nafik, b'dehutzi, also he went out with hutzi, other types of plants from the palm tree. And Rava, nafik, b'divli, right? Also types of grass. He used to go out these different types of materials of shoes. And Rabbi Baravuna, karech sudra, karech v'nafik, he used to go ahead and fold a sudar, fold like a kerchief or some sort of rags around his feet, and he would go out. That was his shoes, right? That was his shoes, right?
You just can't wear leather,
right? According to this was leather. So Meisiv Rabbi Rechama. So asked Rabbi Rechama, Hakita Yaitse Bekav Shalo Dive Reb Meir. On Shabbos. Now there is no Isser of wearing. On Shabbos, there is no prohibition of wearing shoes on Shabbos. Right? Now, but we see over here, a person who's a kita, right? A person who is an amputee. So he had a fake leg, right? Fake leg, a peg, let's say from his knee down. So or even from his foot down, he's allowed to go b'kav shalo, right? His wooden leg, right? His peg, he's allowed to go on Shabbos. Divrei Meir. In other words, that's called wearing a shoe. Rabbi Yossi, Oyser. And Rabbi Yossi says, Aser, it's not a shoe. You're not wearing it, it's not a shoe, and therefore it's like carrying. The Tanya law, and says over there, the Shavin, Aser, let's say, it's Baba Yom Kippurim. It's Aser to wear on Yom Kippur. So why is it Aser Yom Kippur? It sounds like this is a type of shoe. Now, it wasn't, right? So he was Rashi, right? So he said, and both of them agree it's Aser, right? In other words, even though it's made of, even though it's not a shoe, it's made of other material, it's Aser. So you just said before, only leather is Aser, and over here, this wooden peg, right? They both agree that's Aser to wear Yom Kippurim. So any material is called a shoe. You just said before, right? All materials are mutter except for leather, except for a minel. Over here, it seems to say this qualifies as a shoe.
So
right?
The question is he wearing it or not? Can you wear it? Is it considered wearing it or not?
So this right now at this point, the Gemara is assuming that this is qualifies as wearing it as a shoe, and since it's a shoe, one cannot wear shoes on Yom Kippurim, even though it's not made of leather, even though it's not leather over here. So why is that? You just said before you can wear other types of shoes, just not leather. Over here, it seems to see right. So Amar Abaye, Hasam Beizbe Kasisin Mishum Tan. Over there, it was because there was an area, right, where there were small rags in there, and therefore, because the Tanug, therefore it was because it was there, it was pleasurable. That's why it's Asur Yom Kippur. So wait, so the Gemara.
He would put
Right. So basically, right
between the bottom of
right. So basically,
stub.
right. Basically, on the shoe,
And
right, on the peg itself, there was like a place for the rag, so it'd be more comfortable. So I'm gonna Rav. So Rav has a bunch of questions. Understand? If you don't call it a shoe, now remember, Rabbi Yossi says mutter. Rabbi Yossi was the one who says usher. Obviously, according to Rabbi Yossi, it was not a shoe, right? Because he says usher because you're allowed to wear shoes on Shabbos. You can't wear something else. So even according to him, so it's not a shoe. So if it's not a shoe, so what? By putting rags in it, right? Right, you're making it into a shoe now, and that's usher. Doesn't make sense. And furthermore, what? Any type of pleasure is usher. Just because it makes it tanug, it makes it more comfortable. Does that make something usher on Yom Kippurim? He used to go ahead and wrap his feet in rags to make his feet feel better, and he was allowed to go on Shabbat or on Yom Kippur. It didn't make it a shoe, right? You wrap a t-shirt on your foot. It's not a shoe. Okay, so it might feel better. So feeling better is not Asur Yom Kippur. It's wearing shoes is Asur Yom Kippur. And furthermore, it says over there, if it has an area receptacle where it can hold things such as rags, then it's tamei. Michlal, you infer from that the ratio, our case that we brought the ratio, we're not talking about where there was an area to put rags, so you can't say that there were rags there. Really, everyone qualifies. Right, an amputee wearing the peg, the leg, right, is considered to be a shoe. The prosthetic. Shabbos and Shabbos. So why would it be usher to wear in Shabbos? If it's a shoe, it's a shoe. Shabbos, Babaligi. What's the machlokes there? Shabbos, Marsav Gazridon, Dilma Mishtamet, Ba'asi Lasui Dal Ramos, Marsav Loi Gazrid. One held that is a gzeira, you might come to carry it, even though yes, it's a shoe, but it falls off more often than not. People more often carry it. Therefore, Rabbi Yossi says it's usher to carry it, and the other opinion of Meir says no, there's no gzeira there. He's allowed to go ahead and wear it. There is no gezer in that case, and therefore you can go ahead and wear it. But once it comes to Yom Kippur, you can't wear it because there's it's a shoe, and therefore, since it's a shoe, one is considered to be wearing shoes on Yom Kippur. Taner Rabbanan, Tinaikas mutarim bekulan chutz minas hasam. Children, young children are mutter, all of them eat, bathe, anoint, except for wearing leather shoes. Maishna, need a sandal. Why need a sandal? I mean, she avilu hinach. Actually, because they'll say that what? Because the parents were the ones who dressed them in the shoes. The parents dressed in the shoes, and therefore, parents aren't obligated to go ahead and stop the children from eating, right? They don't have to stop them from anointing or bathing. They don't have to do that. That's not the mitzvah of chinuch.
But
But 1 second. But you can't make them do the isser, right? You can't, you can't force them to do so by the shoes. That's them doing it. So therefore, since they're the ones doing to them, therefore the shoes are us. So God says, "Hinachnami." I mean, I understand the other ones. People also say, right? If the kid is eating, they'll say they made a food, or if the kid is bathed, they'll say they did it. No, they say no. If he's bathed or he's they smeared him with oil, they say he did it from yesterday. But obviously, if he's wearing shoes, Yom Kippur morning, the parents put on the shoes. So sandal nami emor metmol avdilei. What do you mean? Sandals also they'll say that no, from the day before. So sandal afshar, right? No, right? Sandal is not the same as right. You can't say he did from yesterday. Avdilei. Why? Damar Shmuel, Haiman, Deboy Lemitem, Tama the Misusa. You want to feel what death tastes like? Lise Masani Veligne. Right? Go ahead and sleep in shoes. Right? Sleep in shoes, that's close to death. So obviously, that's bad news to wear shoes in your sleep. So therefore, obviously, if you're wearing shoes in the morning, then it was done that morning. Everything else you can say, oh, the parents maybe did it yesterday. Right? But it says over there, right? So it says over there that's mutar l'chachila, right? So you said, right?
What's for the child to wear the shoe?
Right, and I was for to do the others. 1 second. Right. Right. All right. The other stuff, is a mutar for them to do the chachila, right? So the Gemara answers, Ella hinach dalav right? Those things that are not needed, right? In other words, they are not needed for a child to grow up, right? Those are the ones that shouldn't do the chachila. However, hinach the Rabbi Suhu, but that which the Rabbanan say one should go ahead and do, those things the Rabbanan were not geyser. What do you mean, right? The Amar Abai, right? Says Amar Li'aim. So he says Abai Amar Li'aim, which is a common theme. This is my mother told me. Rabbi said the Anuka Maya Chamima Mashcha. Right? What's good for a young child is warm water, Maya Chamima, and oil. Right? That's a good thing for a child to go ahead and for him to develop. And God, of course, he grows a little bit. Yusa Bekusva. Then he goes a little bit, a little young. Goes get a little older. Eggs and kutach, right? That's a good hearty meal for development. Galda Pursa, he gets a little older. Tavuri mani, right? He gets a little more destructive. Let him take out his anger and breaking little chashkis, right? Kihad Rabba Zavin Havi Mani the Gaziza the Pacha the Bene Lumisavili. Because even Rabba used to go ahead and buy these little broken cheap tchotchkes to bring it home for his kids to go ahead and break. Take out their aggression. Better take out your aggression on these kalim than on your brothers or sisters. Fine. So those other items which are important for the development, therefore those are done. Fine. Now 2 dots. So Hamelech, couple more lines. Hamelech v'akal yichotzu es paneim. So a king and a kal can go ahead and wash their faces. So Masnis and Mani, who's a Mishalike? Rabbi Chanina ben Trajani. So Trajani, the time of the Raisa. Hamelech v'akal yichotzu es paneim. A king or a bride should not go ahead and wash their face in Yom Kippur. Rabbi Chanina ben Trajani, Mishur, Rabbi Eliezer, Hamelech v'akala yichotzu paneim. They're allowed to go ahead and wash their face in Yom Kippur. And Hachaya, however, one who's given birth, Laitino as sandal should not go ahead and wear leather shoes. No, she is allowed to go ahead and wear shoes. So my time, what's the reason for all this? So Melech, Melech b'yafav tefsira. Right, so he said over there that the king, you should go ahead and see the king in his glory, right? Sing. So therefore, if he doesn't, his face is not washed, therefore the greatness of the king won't be upon him. And kala my time. What's the reason why a bride? In order that she should not become gross or disgusting to her husband. And Amar le Rav Lebchias says Rav Lebchias kalat kama how long she considers to be a bride. Sabrle kidatayu going to brisa a minin tachshitin min akala kol shloshim yom. We don't go ahead and take a jewelry from a kala for 30 days. 30 days in order for her to go ahead and to remain beautiful to him. And we said Achaya Tinos Asagos Bishum Sina because of the coldness. Therefore, she just gave birth there because of the coldness. Therefore, we don't we allow her to go ahead and wear it. And Amar Shmuel Machmas Sakanas Agra Mutter. And if it's because of the danger, let's say of scorpions, then anybody's allowed to go ahead and wear shoes to protect themselves from a sakana. All right, we'll stop here. Shkech, everybody. Everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.